Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
At our last executive committee, which was 2 months ago, or the minutes you just approved, the executive committee essentially voted to move forward with developing the necessary changes to our rules and regulations of the PSTA board for some possible changes to the committee structure of PSTA. And Alan Zimmett is on Zoom listening in. He's the one who drafted this, and he can answer any questions about the rules and regulations that are in your packet with the underline strikeout for the changes. But essentially, there's basically three different changes that we wrote up, and it's up to the executive committee whether to take any of them, some of them, or none of them to the full board for approval. The first was a recommendation to expand the committees from 5 to 7, eliminating the alternates and just going with 7 full members. The second was to eliminate the personnel committee and just make that into the executive committee, which there already is a lot of overlap, and so that's the second. And then the third, which is in the packet, it's not on the screen, is to extend the attendance requirements that currently the rules and regulations cover just the PSTA board, that you have to have an excuse. You have to have an excused absence if you are going to miss a PSTA board meeting, and then if you miss 3 in a year, then there's really not much PSTA can do about it. But PSTA can have the chair send a letter to the appointing jurisdiction and ask them if they want to, that their person is not attending. But this would extend attendance requirements to the committees, which it isn't. There is no attendance requirement for the committees now in the rules and regulations. Now that we wouldn't have alternates, there would be an attendance requirement. And the suggestion is that if you miss 5 in a year, 5 of typically 11 meetings, or 3 consecutive committee meetings, then the executive committee would suggest appointing another PSTA member to take your place. And those are the 3 proposed changes. As you recall, we had a good discussion at the last executive committee about narrowing it down to these to bring forward, but still, it would just be up to whatever you think we should do. So with that, Alan, I don't know if you want to add anything, but I think I pretty much covered it.
I think you described it.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any problem with the recommendations that are up there. I do think that the nominating committee should remain the way that it is. I think I said that at our last meeting, because the nominating committee is taking its cue from persons who submit their application, if you will, to serve in whatever leadership position. And so that's what's being discussed. It's not like we're, just picking a person to nominate for whatever office. So I think that should stay the way that it is as far as the nominating committee. I did agree with eliminating the personnel and merging that in. Finance and legislative, I don't have a problem with the up to 7 members. That helps you if you have voting. Well, not voting, but recommendations that move forward to the full board. And then I do think, I thought maybe I heard some consensus about eliminating the alternate positions where persons would be serving and would be expected to attend the meetings. As for what you do if a person is missing meetings consecutively, I like the idea of sending out a letter or a communication saying, in a very pleasant way, we missed you at these meetings? Is there something that we should be aware of? If you no longer desire to serve, or perhaps your commitments on other committees, conflict with this meeting, please let us know so that we could move forward with appointing another person, or however the language, whatever you want to do. But I do know there are times when, and I'm just speaking for me, Career Source meets the same day that our PSTA board meets. So sometimes when you see me like having to slide out, it's because they meet at 11:45, and if our meeting goes, which sometimes it does, then I'm sliding out. So I know what it's like to have a conflict, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we try to do our best to be wherever we need to be, because we elected to serve, and we should be present to serve and communicate. So those are my thoughts, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have a comment before I go? All right.
And I do think Mayor Sreki is there.
All right.
I'm here, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, do you have any,
Yeah.
do you have any, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to keep it at 5 members with the 2 alternate members. I don't really want to change that, but I understand that there might be some other argument to that. But I have been on the Finance Committee and the Legislative Committee for the last 3.5 years, and I don't think there's a need to change that particular item. I just wanted to make that clear.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you.
It's just a little delay.
I hate the sound of my phone. Dan, could you mute when you're not speaking? Dan, could you mute when you're not speaking?
He just did.
Thank you.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say, in your packet, Rachel included the attendance for the last 3 years for all the committees and the board. You can see that.
Yes, thank you for pulling that information to share with us. I thought that looking at attendance patterns over the last couple of years could help to inform us on these decisions regarding the number of committee members and attendance requirements, so that we get like a real world snapshot of what committee appointments mean to the members. I'm having a challenge with the combination of increasing the number of committee members and having the attendance requirement, because that, I think we will have it's the two in combination. It makes the attendance requirement, a little more difficult for some to meet. As Commissioner Flowers pointed out, many of us do juggle different things, and while we prioritize our work here, of course, there are things that happen. It's just, to me, more members means more opportunity for absences, lack of a quorum, and could lead to an inefficiency in the committees. I think having 5 is plenty. As we've discussed before, all board members are welcome to attend and speak at all committee meetings. I don't see why it would be such a problem that only 5 would vote when we have a respectful discussion that includes members of the committee and non-members who are still board members. We just had a great example of that in our legislative committee meeting, where it was open to everyone, and everyone was welcome to give input. So I don't see how we become more productive or efficient by increasing the number of members. I do feel that the attendance requirements should be extended and eliminating alternates, since there were so many questions and a little bit of confusion about what an alternate's role was. I'm okay with eliminating that, but then having those requirements. So, I'd love to know what anyone else thinks about the number of members and what I've put out here in regards to what this combination means.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I would agree. I think that by adding members to a committee, that I think that puts us could potentially put us in a situation where we're not meeting quorum. We had a problem, almost had an issue meeting quorum for a meeting this morning, earlier, and, then we have some members who have to attend by Zoom, which is fine, but you have to have quorum here present to be able to do that. So I would agree with that, and I also don't understand the purpose of having a, what's the word, what's the word, the folks who are there but just aren't voting, right? So, or are voting, but they're not actually members of the committee, or they're.
Non-voting board members.
Yes, so I don't understand the purpose of that. So I don't see a need to increase the membership, and I don't see a need to have any members who, they're allowed to, any member of the board of directors is allowed to come to any committee meeting and discuss the issues that are there, but I don't feel like they should be able to vote on it if they're not a member of the committee. So, yeah, I would agree with the chair. I think that, 5 members per committee is fine, and because, again, I think it puts us in issue, or, and could potentially put us at issue of not having quorum, which just eliminates the effectiveness of the committee. So I would not vote to change, to increase the membership of any committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Brown.
As a non-member of the executive committee, thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak. I'm in every meeting that I can fit into my schedule, disregarding whether I'm a member of that committee or not. And in each one of those committee meetings where I am not an official member, I don't vote, because I think that's awkward for me. I think the committees need to be set at whatever number. I'm fine with the current setup and the alternates, as long as the role of the alternate is explained to that board member. That you're an alternate on this committee, here's how it works, and please come. And I think that from the board level down to the committee level, it's not just a willingness to serve, but you gotta put the time and the commitment in. It's the ability to serve. And we are all juggling different things. And if you're having conflicts, I get that. And so we make arrangements for that. Commissioner Flowers takes the opportunity. She attends where she can. She might have to slide out early. I get that. But also for those members that can't seem to make it on time, attendance should be a requirement. And it's not just I want to serve, but can you serve? And if you can't, we thank you for your willingness, but we need to find somebody else who is an active member of the board. But leadership is important. Any role you play in a board is leadership, and the people need to be cognizant of that and to respect the working of the board and the organization. So without taking a vote, my recommendation would be leave the committees the way they are, leave the alternates the way they are, with an explanation of here's the expectation. The way we run city boards in Dunedin, we have alternates. And your participation as an alternate is a direct decision on whether or not you ever make it to the board level. If you can't be there as an alternate, you certainly can't be there as a board member. So that's taken into consideration the way things function in Dunedin. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, you make great points.
And alternate was the word I was looking for.
Oh.
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
ask, when you were sharing earlier, that there was some confusion about our definition of an alternate and the roles, can, maybe, if I missed that conversation, can you share some light on?
I think
what-
there had been some questions, it was a while back, on what is expected of an alternate, are they supposed to be at the meetings, do they vote? And so, I mean, one option would be for us to look at how that role is defined and communicated to the board so that they understand what being an alternate is. And if it is a requirement that, or an expectation that you be there, to me, I've served on committees that have alternates, and we have, I mean, it's similar to what Commissioner Gao was describing. If you want to be on a committee and you get named as an alternate, it's kind of like you're the understudy, you know? And so you really need to know your lines just in case. So in order to do that, you might want to show up for the meetings. So, but that's how I approach it. I don't know if we need to have more structure around the definition of the alternate, and in any case, I think if we keep them, then that needs to be more clearly defined.
And I agree with that, and that's why I was asking, because, you know, if you're an alternate and you don't regularly attend a meeting, and let's say someone calls you the day before and say, it looks like we're not gonna have a quorum, then that person may already have something scheduled, so you wouldn't have a quorum. And so if that's the direction that it goes, I would hope that there would be language that defines that alternate is expected to attend the meeting as if they are, and that way, if it should be an issue with voting, or if someone steps out and has to leave early, you continue to have that quorum and that person's there, and the expectation. So that language could be fleshed out, but that's why I was asking. I didn't know if it was something else that came up as a result of that.
Right.
Thank you. Good explanation, thank you.
Chair Driscoll?
Yes.
Thank you for this good discussion. This is exactly what I was hoping for. So, just, from just hearing the discussion, the issue that was originally brought up the whole thing with alternates was because the rules and regulations do not even define an alternate. There is no such thing in our rules and regulations about an alternate. It is just what we created to allow the nominating committee to appoint everyone to a committee of 5. Many years ago, we created this, the alternate position, and then there was confusion about, so what we could do, perhaps, is, as you've just been describing, keep the committees at 5, but put on the attendance requirement, which is written there, but then add a section defining the alternates, that a committee can have up to 2 alternates, and they are expected, and then put some language in that they are expected to attend the meetings, attend the committee meetings. Just so it's clear in there.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect their attendance would be the same. Their attendance
Would be the
requirements would
same
be the
as the-
same as the committee members.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still don't think they should have voting capabilities, though, unless they're moved
No,
up into an
I
active
mean,
position.
that's why you're called an alternate.
Correct.
If you're, an alternate that's voting is a member of the committee.
Right.
So it's one or the other.
Unless it's a matter of keeping quorum. Then
Absolutely,
they'll
yeah,
open it.
right.
Yeah,
That's
then they
up to
get
them.
the voting
Yes,
privilege.
it's there,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
Right, so then in that case, I would be more supportive of just having one alternate per committee. It is extremely rare that you would need 2 in order to make a quorum. So, and with those attendance requirements, I mean, here's the thing, if we have another thing that's been brought up that has not made it this far, but it could come up again, is a requirement that members be rotated from different committees, which for various reasons, I don't support that.
Yeah.
But if that were to happen, and I get appointed to another committee that I didn't ask for, and that I have a conflict with another board or something, or my other job, you know, I'm gonna end up getting in trouble because of attendance, because I cannot meet those requirements. We've raised our hands to be on the PSTA board. And I think we need to just be mindful of that when we talk about what the expectations are that come with that when you're appointed, and also the other side, what we can expect to be required of us. So right now, there's no rotation. We're not talking about rotation of committees, but I'm using that as an example of why, although the attendance requirement is quite forgiving, an excused absence is basically making sure that Brad knows in advance, you know? But,
Madam Chair?
yes, Commissioner Saraki.
Yes, Commissioner Scracky.
I'm sorry, I just wanna make one statement. I met with Brad for our one-on-one on Monday, and we were talking about, the two alternate members. And I agreed that there was a communication problem in explaining exactly what that role was. I think that communication through email or verbally has been fixed. And I really feel that the 5-member board, for quorum purposes, and then the 2 alternate members should stay. And I apologize for any background noise because I'm stuck in traffic on I-4. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir, and Godspeed.
Madam Chair.
I'm willing to go with that.
And I guess my only disclaimer, this underlying thing is that still any board member has the opportunity to sit on any, and just walk into any committee meeting. So this is not eliminating participation. This is not eliminating the opportunity for the voice to be heard.
Right, great point. Anyone else?
I think Mr. Zimmett was trying to raise his hand.
Mr. Zimmett, did you have something to add at this point?
Yes, I just want to make sure that, I know if we're gonna amend the rules, or change what we've written, that I'm clear on what we want to do going forward, and I just wanna, address the alternates, although I put my hand up and then you spoke about limiting the alternates to number 1, to 1 alternate per committee, which would address one of my concerns, and that is if an alternate would be able to vote if we don't have enough members of the committee at the meeting. If there's more than 1 alternate, my concern would be, how do you determine which alternate
It's a great.
gets the vote and which one doesn't? So if you limit it to 1 alternate per committee, you kind of avoid that problem. And my other recommendation was going to be that you allow an alternate to vote if a committee member is absent, because that'll help us with quorum. And also, I think it gives the alternates more reason to attend the meetings.
Yes, thank you, and I'm so glad you pointed out that there would be some potential conflict with which alternate is seated. So thank you I'm so glad you thought of that. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
So with
So I'm
that-
thinking, we could. So it sounds like there could be consensus around, keeping this at 5 members. I say we take the, Mr. Zimet's concerns into consideration and have one alternate position, have the attendance requirements extend to all committee members plus the alternate.
Yep.
So we have that much so far. Is there any discussion regarding eliminating the personnel committee and having the executive committee absorbing those duties? Or with keeping the nominating committee, any discussion there?
Are you okay with,
yes,
folding the
I'm fine
personnel
with
committee
it.
into the executive committee?
Yes,
The duties were overlapping as far as I was concerned, and that was just a committee meeting.
right, and, I was open to keeping the nominating committee or rolling that into the executive committee, just to be more efficient. But I don't know that I agree that executive committees should be barred from serving on the nominating committee.
Yeah,
Depending on the makeup of the board, those could be your most experienced people on the board, and who have perhaps served on different committees and understand them the best. So I wouldn't want to cut off our nose to spite our face by excluding the opportunity for executive committee members. Personally, I don't know if I've ever served on the nominating committee, and I'm okay with never serving on it, regardless of whether or not I'm on the executive committee. So, I'm okay with keeping that, whatever we want to move forward. So, if anyone wants to pull that all together and make a motion, that would be great.
Chair?
I think that's what we're looking for.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, before we actually vote on this, can we do the motion to allow Mayor Saraki to participate? We haven't done that.
I'll move
guess.
approval for Mayor Saraki to appear via Zoom.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to allow PSTA Vice Chair and Mayor of the
PSTA
great
Vice
city of
Chair.
Oldsmar, Dan Saraki, to
Dan Saraki, to
participate in this meeting and vote virtually. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So in the motion, should it also include language that we are requesting that language be written to include the expectations of the alternate positions
Yeah.
I
for
would,
clarification?
yes. But we might consider doing that as a separate
Separate
motion.
Okay. I wasn't sure, that's because, since it was one of the bullets, eliminate alternate
Yeah,
positions, that's why I asked.
Do you want to just take it in a series of votes on each thing?
Alan, what do you prefer?
My preference would be to take them one at a time, so we're all clear on exactly what
Okay.
we're voting on.
Go slow.
All right, Vice Chair Saraki, did you catch that? So you're ready to
did
vote?
you
on each
catch that,
individual
so you're
item?
ready to?
Yes, I am ready to vote, yes.
Thank you, sir. All right, first I'll entertain a motion to recommend that the Finance, Planning, and Legislative Committees remain at the current membership of 5.
So moved.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. We got your vote, so that motion carries. I believe we need, so in terms of designating that there be one alternate?
Yeah,
is that
one
just for-
alternate, and then we
Is that just
define
for
it.
these 3 committees? Or for all committees?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the 3.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to recommend that the Finance, Planning, and Legislative Committees be constructed with one alternate.
I would move that the Finance, Planning, and Legislative Committees.
Second,
Hold on, baby, hold on. Okay, I would like to make a motion that the Finance, Planning, and Legislative Committee have at its disposal one alternate position, that attendance at the committee meetings would be required for that alternate position, that the alternate position would also be required to adhere to the attendance of the committees as follows. If a member misses 3 consecutive or 5 in a year, that member could be replaced at the next executive committee pending communication between the chair and that alternate and/or committee person.
Second?
I have a question on that one, Alan, regarding sunshine law with communication between 2 board members.
By way of letter, because you're sending that, you're sending a, well, Brad then, maybe I should, because the only reason why I put that in there was because Brad said to have the chair communicate to say what's going on with you.
Well, generally, and I can speak to this because one of the city past representative received that letter. It was sent to the mayor. So the chair sent a letter to the Largo's mayor saying our member was not attending meetings
So for the
So-
county, for example, she'd be sending it to the chair of
to
the
the
county.
chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, let me back up.
But for the committees, the idea is, that is what the rules and regulations call for already, for the board meetings. But for the committee attendance, if a member of a committee or alternate, as your motion would cover, misses 3 consecutive committee meetings or 5 in a year, then the executive committee would recommend, the executive committee would recommend replacing them with a different member of the PSA board. They don't have to be kicked off the whole board. They just a
No,
new
I'm not
member.
saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
saying-
I don't know that a committee attendance would be resolved by someone sending a letter to the mayor of the city that
No.
person represents.
It would just come to it says, he or she should be automatically removed from that committee, and the executive committee will appoint a member to fill the vacancy.
Okay, so, but let me ask this question. So while the executive committee could make the recommendation that that person not serve and someone else serve in their space, would we then, like all other things, would we then also be required to bring it before the full board for a vote? I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
all of the, yeah,
Yes.
so that's that's the reason why I'm asking for, I'm not trying to be too languagey or whatever, I know that's not a word, but that's the reason why I'm asking or suggesting that there be some form of communication. So, Madam Chair brought up a very good point about violation of sunshine by her sending an email or a letter or whatever to that board member saying, you know, you haven't made these meetings, et cetera. That is perhaps something that, the executive director could do, but,
So my question is that how we handle regular committee members, like voting committee members right now? I just think whatever the attendance policy and process for addressing is, should apply the same with all members.
and I agree with that. I'm just, the part I'm just trying to be cautious of is that the executive committee would be taking an action to replace someone, when in fact, even for those persons to serve on the committee in the first place, that goes before the full board.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah. Yeah,
Can I make a suggestion?
yeah.
And I think I understand what Commissioner Flowers is getting at, that maybe there's an explanation that the member might want to make. What if we just, if we provide that the CEO would notify the committee member that they've missed 3 consecutive or 5 in a year, and that their position on the committee will be discussed by the executive committee at the meeting on September 5th. And then if that member wants to communicate to the executive committee or attend the executive committee meeting and say, you know, I got sick last year and I'm sorry I missed 3 meetings in a row, but I want to stay on the committee, and the committee could consider that and decide not to replace the person. But if that, at least that kind of be the process. Would that get you where you want to be, Commissioner Flowers?
I like the way that you put that. Again, I'm just saying, you know, our processes are that committees take its recommendation to the full board whenever
Yeah.
we make an action. That action is not just, you know, actions aren't just completed because
Right.
they are decided on in committee. So I just wanna
Okay,
make
I
sure
wonder-
that we're giving the opportunity for dialogue.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can just take up attendance as a separate voting item.
That sounds good to me.
And for now, just like narrow this one down to establishing that we'll have one alternate per committee.
So I'm going to ask that everything that I said, Madam Secretary over there, everything that I said, prior to the attendance be stricken from the record. And that's my motion.
So if we could clarify what the motion is now.
My motion is that, one alternate position be assigned to the Finance, Planning, and Legislative Committees.
Yeah, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Dan. The motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to eliminate the Personnel Committee, having those duties absorbed by the Executive Committee.
I'll make that motion to eliminate the Personnel Committee and have those duties and responsibilities absorbed by the Executive Committee.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to, I don't think we have to make a motion to keep something we already have. So
Right.
that one we just leave alone, and we can go back to attendance. Mr. Gill.
If I may, on the board level, the board doesn't appoint other board members, they come from outside. So they're just appointed by the cities or counties boards they represent. So PSTA can't control that, but what we can control is the committees. So what I might suggest is that just attendance is part of the nominating committee's judgment call when they're assigning every year. The only concern that you'd really have is if somebody misses the first 5 or 6 meetings, which is an indication, which is gonna be rare. It's gonna be that spotty attendance that's gonna show up. So by the time you take any action anyway, the year is up. But just let any board member understand that if they're stepping up to wanna be on a committee, that attendance is gonna be part of their requirement, and it's gonna be taken into consideration by the nominating committee the next.
So, yeah,
So
and
there doesn't have to be any letter sent, there doesn't have to be.
That was the
any-
That
thought
was
about
the
it going to
intent.
the executive, because the
Right.
executive meets more often than the nominating.
and that's exactly what it's, that's exactly how it's written in the resolution. So to Brad's point, Brad said this earlier, so that the resolution states, if a committee member misses 3 consecutive meetings of the same committee or 5 committee meetings of the same committee in a calendar year, he or she should be automatically removed from that committee, and the executive committee will appoint a member to fill the vacancy. So to your point, they're not assigned here or appointed here by their governing body. We are the ones that are, putting those folks on the committee. We don't need to notify anybody. The expectation is there that they will make those meetings. If they don't make those meetings and they're not excusing themselves from those meetings, then they're out, and we bring it up at the next executive committee and either recommend a new person or allow that person maybe the opportunity to explain why they have missed meetings. But if they're missing 5 or meetings in a year, probably not very interested in being in a meeting anyhow, so. I would keep it as is, as the attendance policy as is stated in the resolution.
Well, I think where it gets sticky is in the verbiage on removal. So it's may versus shall. And I think it's shall immediately be removed. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of
It's a
me.
should.
Automatically removed.
He or she.
Should be automatically.
Should be.
So could we, Alan, is it okay if we change should to may?
Sure.
Because usually it's a shall instead of a should.
It's shall or may.
And-
Should is not a,
Yeah, and the only reason I'm just sticking on that point is because, again, committees discuss, we make our recommendations, but then that goes to the full board.
Yeah. So it really should read that the
And
committee
it
will
could be additional
recommend.
comment and conversation out there that perhaps could take place in here.
Perhaps the
I like
language that's
that.
written should be changed, that the executive committee will recommend to the full board a
recommend, yeah.
replacement.
Yeah,
We'll make a
fill the vacancy.
recommendation
because
to them.
that's what we do, we send our.
So it would be the executive committee may make a recommendation to the full board for a replacement.
Yeah, because we don't get to, we act in the committee, but we don't get to take action on behalf of the full board.
Yeah.
Like all other committees, they act, they take a vote, and then it goes to the full board, and the chair
They can decide.
says,
So-
this is my recommendation, and it was a unanimous vote from the committee or whatever, but.
So just so I'm clear, the discussion is just for this committee, or the executive committee, to make the recommendation of who the replacement would be. We're not having a discussion about whether or not that person should be replaced. Because the resolution, again, states that if the person misses, regardless of what we think about it, the resolution states that the person will be, I guess we're gonna discuss having that changed to may be replaced. And then we would make the recommendation to the full board as to who their replacement should be.
Well, if there should be a replacement. I
Hello.
mean, everything should be subject to the full board's final approval.
Agreed.
So staff, do you have enough to, can we condense this to one motion, to like a motion that's got all that in there?
As being on the nominating committee, as it still stands, we're still here. I just, the nominating committee addresses everything but the attendance during, but now the nominating committee is being circumvented. Is that a concern? I know that we don't meet regularly, but should the nominating committee be there since they were the
Sure.
ones initially in place?
If this
Because
whole
they
thing that we're
still
talking
need,
about.
they still need to send it to the full board for a vote, so I don't care which committee it goes to.
But I also
You-
don't
you
want
make
it
a
to
good
go
point.
through 3 committees just to get to the board,
Yeah, but they would be the ones to nominate a replacement.
I would think.
It's literally in the title of the committee. So,
The nominating committee, if this,
How
if
often
this
does
was
the nominating
triggered,
committee meet?
usually one time a year, just to
Exactly.
nominate the next
So
year.
that's exactly why the executive committee was assigned in this resolution to be that person, unless you can call an ad hoc meeting of the nominating committee,
I think we can call an ad hoc meeting for any of the committees.
if you can get a quorum.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yes.
We're putting ourselves really deep in the weeds here.
yeah, it could be,
It sounds like this language would just be modified to say,
Change the word should.
if a committee member misses 3 consecutive committee meetings of the same committee or 5 committee meetings of the same committee in a calendar year, he or she may be removed from that committee, and the executive committee will recommend a
Member to fill the.
member to fill the vacancy.
Okay, so if we're gonna get into the weeds, so if the word may is replaced in there, then what's the qualification for a may?
Maybe
That
the
means
may
that-
shouldn't be added to that.
I'm right, so yeah, we might, who is gonna be the person to decide that?
The board. The board can vote against it.
What board? The full
The
board?
full
Yeah, the
board.
full board.
So the recommendation, and I just want to be clear on what I'm voting on, right? So the recommendation would be then, if I don't show up for 5 meetings, my name is going to be brought up to the full board at some point and says, Jamie's going to be replaced on the executive committee. And then who's going to, so then there's the executive committee is going to meet in that time, I guess, and bring up a recommendation, and at that same time recommend that to that new
Yeah.
person to the board.
It seems like if you miss 5 meetings, the executive committee shall make a recommendation to the board to replace you. You will automatically be brought up to the executive committee, and then maybe you can make an appeal at the board meeting, and then maybe you won't be replaced, but it's the full board's final decision. The executive committee is just coming up with an alternative to you. But there's no way the executive committee cannot recommend somebody else.
You're right, I'm not worrying about the nomination or the new recommendation, the word may.
You know, that would eliminate the word may. It would just read as it is.
Change should.
He or she should be, he or she is removed from the committee, and the executive committee will nominate a member to the vacancy.
Who brings it to the attention of the executive committee?
Rachel? Me?
So it's not the, it's not the
It just
committee
gets
chair.
added to the agenda
Yeah.
for that
Yeah,
committee.
so no.
Yeah,
Well,
but
right,
please
for-
understand that by including the word, by using the word shall, there is no other alternative. There's no opportunity for that board member to explain why they have missed those meetings and make a case to remain on the board. They shall be removed.
I agree, and I think, I'm
And
okay
if-
with that.
If y'all are good with that, I'm fine with it. But I just want to make sure everyone understands
We're
that
talking, yes.
it's an absolute, so.
So you're talking about
Five-
somebody who's
five
gonna
meetings
miss
in a calendar
40%
year.
of the meetings of, in a
Yeah, I would
in a
step
year.
down long before I got to
Right.
that point,
Yeah.
if I couldn't fulfill those duties.
Right.
And, we would hope that anyone would, and that we'll never have to have
And
that
also,
type of
you're
thing.
also talking about an unexcused absence, right? Like, to your point earlier,
No, I think it's just absences, right?
Yeah, it's any absence.
okay, well, that's
Because
still.
there's
We,
a
we
pretty
haven't
low
had
threshold.
that. We've only had that in one case, right? We've only had one case of that.
And you do have the ability to come in through Zoom if
Yes,
Yeah, you
right.
have that-
Yeah,
you're not.
you're
I mean,
absolutely right.
I was on the road.
Yeah, right.
Trying
No,
to
you're
learn.
absolutely right. I think that's even a better,
Okay, I was just trying to be mindful of, I know,
At least in the last 3 years, we've
Our
only had
discussions.
one situation where this would be triggered with the legislative committee. It looks like.
Okay.
So the motion would be then that if a committee member misses 3 consecutive committee meetings of the same committee or 5 committee meetings of the same committee in a calendar year, he or she shall be considered, shall be removed, shall be recommended for removal from that committee, and the executive committee will recommend an appointed member to fill the vacancy, subject to board approval, full board approval.
All right, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'm not gonna second that because the word, I
Could you
forget.
offer a
I said
friendly
shall.
amendment? Could you offer a friendly amendment?
So my friendly amendment would be that he or she shall be automatically removed, and the motion was that should be recommended to be removed. So my.
Here's why I
Because I
said
think she-
recommended, because staff doesn't get to remove them from the committee. It doesn't happen until an action takes place at this committee. the recommendation, because the attendance is kept by the secretary. It's gonna be put on the agenda. So they're not automatically removed. They are being recommended to be removed. They're not automatically removed until we actually take an action vote. So that's why I use that word. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you know, if you say automatically, that means nothing even comes before us. They're just gone.
I believe
And
that.
that's not how staff doesn't have that authority.
It's
Yes,
not
thank
staff.
you. Thank you. I believe that the word shall creates that automatic, does the job of automatically in the
Because it's
language.
an action word.
But I do think that everything should be subject to a full board's, to the full board. Pretty much everything we do in committees has to end up with the full board. So-
Because even with the word of automatically, the full board could completely reverse the decision, so nothing is automatic. I'm not saying they would, but nothing would be automatic. They, you know,
But the word shall prevents
It's
anything else
strong.
from happening.
just
So
like
it
in legal terms, we
achieves
got an
the
attorney in
same
here.
goal.
Yeah, we have an attorney on the
Yes,
phone.
Alan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Simmons, please forgive me. But the word shall versus may, we talk about this all the time in contracts, all of us, you know. The word shall versus may, shall says this is what happens. But I
You
respect you.
wanna just
I
eliminate
respect
the
your-
thing about being removed from the
Jamie.
committee, and then if the person misses 3 or 5, the executive committee may recommend a replacement. You wanna do it that way?
I'll remove my amendment and second.
No, I want you to
No,
feel
I'm
comfortable.
fine, I am comfortable.
I want you to feel
So
comfortable.
I remove my amendment and second Commissioner Flowers' motion.
All right.
It's a hand up there, Mr. Simmons. I'm sorry, Mr. Simmons, did you raise your hand to get on me?
Yes, thank you. And I'll follow up what Brad was saying, because that was kind of where I was going. I think with, the committee kind of discussing whether to use the word shall or may, I think we can get to the same place that you're trying to get to if we just kind of go along with what Brad said, and after, where it says calendar year, it would read, the executive committee will recommend another member to fill the another member to replace that member, to the board. And then it'll be up to the board to decide whether they're gonna remove that committee member and replace them with the person that the executive committee's recommended or not. Because the language is being suggested shall be recommended, those two words, shall and recommended, it's almost
Yeah, that's a good point.
in a way consistent with one another. And I hear the committee members saying that it should ultimately be up to the board to make the final decision, not the executive committee. So the executive committee's role would be make a recommendation for a replacement, take it to the board, it'd be on an agenda. The committee member would have full opportunity to explain why they've been absent. And then it'll be up to the full board whether they're replaced or not.
All
Is
right,
that,
thank you.
does that better meet your, and the other thing I just wanted to point out while I have the opportunity is you had talked about making this attendance rule applicable to the alternates. And then we kind of that kind of went out in the bathwater with Commissioner Flowers' discussion about the attendance rule as part of the alternates. So I just wanted to make a note, Madam Chair, that at some point I'd like to see if the committee wants to make this, whatever attendance rule we adopt, applicable to the alternates.
Thank you.
So just put in there,
Committee member or alternate.
just say, and, alternates. So instead of saying just committee members, it will be
Including
committee,
alternate.
to include alternates. Or and alternates, to include or and alternates, either way.
don't know if this muddies the water.
No,
If I may, but for the board member, if this is me, and do I have an opportunity for this not to go to the board? I step down, you know, is that process kind of embedded in this? Where I'd rather not address why I'm absent. I don't want to make it a board thing, I don't want to make it a huge public thing.
That would be a
So you just give a
process.
written,
yeah,
you know, resignation
Yeah.
from the committee,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
and then it's all done.
And what Alan's suggesting, that would apply. It will just say that, the executive committee will recommend a replacement.
Yeah, it would still.
So the language then would just say if a committee member or alternate misses, that includes the alternate, so that you're not, we're not losing that in the recommendation. And then ditto what, Mr. Zimmet said.
Is that your?
That's my motion. And Mr. Zimmet, if you could relay that information, please, appropriately.
I will second Commissioner Flowers' motion.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second, and just as a reminder, this will then go to the board. We'll actually see the language. Normally, this would be something we would want to have brought back to us in a draft before we send it to the full board. So there could be some more discussion about this when it goes to the board. But I think we're close enough, and hopefully Alan can wade through this discussion to come up with some proposed language that everyone can agree on.
Could we ask that he email that to us?
I don't know that he can, but we can't have a discussion
No,
on it.
not a discussion, but just so we can see it and, but it's.
I'm
either
sure
way,
that can be
you know.
requested, yeah. We do have a
Sure,
motion. I'm
I
sorry.
can email it out this week to the committee members.
Okay.
Unless you wanna take a stab at it while we take up our next two items, and then you come back in.
We're already 9
You ready
minutes
to go
past
home?
our time that this meeting was supposed to
Okay, no
adjourn.
problem.
And I do have another commitment, so I'm getting a little
Nancy, no
nervous here.
problem.
Same.
Thank you.
I don't want to miss anything, but I'm really up against a wall here.
Mhm.
So,
Continue.
thank you. And if you wanted this part to come back to this committee next month and have this one lag behind the rest, we have that option.
I think we're okay to move forward. I think
Okay.
we're all,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Saraki?
Dan's at the hotel.
Sleeping.
He's,
I think he's gone.
He's off, okay. Motion,
That's a problem. Do we have a quorum?
Yeah, there's still a
Yes, we do.
quorum.
Yes, we do.
motion carries.
Madam Chair.
Next up, yes, Brad.
So, just in the interest of time, since we are already over, I would recommend if we could just very quickly go to item 3C. We will defer item 3D until September. And then I would like to get your feedback or hear your comments about the presentation about the Sunrunner concerns.
Okay.
The 3C, just to move to that. So, assuming that you were gonna be okay with the idea of,
I'm sorry, before actually going to that item, we need to finish the vote.
did you not vote on
We also were going to vote on defining the alternate position and its duties. And I think we agreed early on that we would take that up as a separate motion. So I'd like to get that on record as well.
Oh, okay.
We discussed attendance, but we also had said early on that we wanted a clearer definition, something that is written that defines an alternate and their duties. So I'll entertain a motion to request that, and that would go in the policies, right? The policy?
Yes, yes. But did you have some other duty in mind other than alternative, other than?
No, I think it's pretty clear, and I
Alternates.
would want that to be brought back here, as a draft
Yeah.
for discussion.
Alternates
before it
shall
goes-
have the same roles and responsibilities as assigned committee members.
Right, but that
To
just needs
include-
to be.
Yeah, written out.
Written out.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
In the rules and regulations.
so
yeah.
I'll entertain,
So moved.
does anyone?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to have language added to define the role of an alternate and what their duties and responsibilities are. All in
Yes.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you for remembering that.
Yeah, the motion carries. I had it on my list. I'm like, no, Brad, we have to
Okay.
get through
Because
this
it
part.
currently doesn't even exist, language exists, so thank you
Right,
for
so we-
remembering that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now to 3C.
A little self-serving, Brad, to go to cell 3C, isn't
Well, yeah, yeah.
All of us who are here to vote on this today, could I just ask in advance, in the interest of time, are there major changes in the
There is not.
evaluation template or?
Right, the
Anything-
action item is for the executive committee to approve sending out the same form as last year to the members of the board to complete it. And then at your September executive committee, you'll get the results
Right.
of this.
it? Then you're recommending,
I'm recommending no increase, no increase in,
For the-
regardless, especially because I think that would be appropriate given our budget situation.
And then I would presume that we would have, as we always do, some type of presentation from Mr. Bradford related to the union and compensation. Normally we do.
Oh, yes, yeah,
I mean, I see what's recommended here, but you know, he always makes a presentation.
yeah.
Okay.
so the ask is to just approve the compensation scorecard as is, performance scorecard, I should say.
Yeah, and send it out to the
Send it to the
full board to be completed in August for a September review.
So I would make that my motion, Madam Chair.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Dan's still going. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Madam Chair, if it's okay, you have the FY 2023 scorecard as an informational item in your packet. And then we'll defer approving, or considering recommending approval of the 24 goals until September meeting. If that's okay with the committee. And then we will move to the first informational item, the Sunrunner concerns that was brought up to the PSA board last 2 weeks ago at the meeting. You saw, remember, there were some citizens who came to the meeting. James Bradford, our Chief Operating Officer, is going to walk through all of the efforts that we have done in the last 2 weeks, which are substantial. The reason that I wanted to bring this to the executive committee is we're sort of, I wanted to make sure the executive committee knew that we're sort of in a, between two different policy sort of issues. St. Pete Beach residents and Sheriff Galtieri, because we've had a number of good discussions with Sheriff Galtieri, have identified that there is an issue with folks taking unhoused individuals riding the Sunrunner and then sleeping on the beach, and then taking the Sunrunner back to St. Petersburg during the day. And their recommendation is to implement a fare on Sunrunner immediately. Mayor Welch and the city of St. Petersburg's FY24 proposed budget includes extending paying for the Sunrunner riders' fares beyond the planned implementation of a fare on November 1st. So want to make sure you knew that. And with these two issues going on, we believe we want to try to come up with, is there an alternative to instituting a fair to mitigate some of these issues? And I think we're making great progress in that with the efforts that James and his team have done. And so I want him to kind of walk through that.
Okay, Madam Chair, respect to your time, I'll super condense it, or you want me to go?
It's fine, I actually just sent a text to my aide to cancel my next meeting,
Okay.
so that we can continue the conversation. This is important. We were at a disadvantage because the last meeting ran long, so,
All right, my apologies, because I'm prepared to super condense it if needed.
thank you.
Okay, and I won't go too long. So as Chair Miller has said, our challenge here is just pretty much perception becoming reality. We had folks come in the last board meeting, they rang the alarm, they showed a graph that no one really could see and said, hey, the Sunrunner route is increasing crime in our area, do something about it. And then the notion that has been floated around and has spread in the St. Pete Beach area is charge a fare, it will solve everything. All the crime will go away, even though crime was pre-existing before the October 21, 2022 Sunrunner. Met with this gentleman yesterday, Dr. William Lawson, in my conference room in the other building to go through his data, to ask him, how did you get this data? Where are these numbers coming from? We had been emailing back and forth since the last board meeting. He had gone on to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office data portal to pull this data. Now, the challenge with that portal is every time you go in it to try to get information, there's thousands and thousands of records. It randomizes it and it gives you something different each time. He used a formula called JSON Python script, which and you all might possibly know how to do that, I don't, and wrote a formula to be able to pull and then query the data that he wanted. So he sent it over to us, and we just pretty much took his same data and analyzed it. Preceding that last board meeting, there were emails that went out to maybe some of the board members from him and other St. Pete Beach residents saying, hey, the Sunrunner is increasing the presence of folks that are housing disadvantaged, the unhoused. And we're seeing increased activity in our area of St. Pete Beach of assaults, battery, burglary, theft, vandalism, that types of things that has caused the sheriff's office to have to increase their patrol. So the data that I believe it's not in here is he showed a graph similar to that, but he showed 2022, 2023, and in 2023 it showed all these instances of crime going up. So instead of trying to duplicate his data, because we couldn't, because the portal just kept spitting out different facts, we took his same data and we looked at it, and we backed out things like forgery and child abductions and fraud and hit and runs, because our folks are coming over via the bus and things of that nature. And we're showing that data, comparing his same timeline using his same numbers, are pretty flat. The additional thing we did was we took the addresses that were listed on his data. We went to Google Earth, we took the latitude and longitude coordinates, and we plotted them back onto a map to see where it was happening. And it was spread out all throughout the St. Pete Beach area, mainly around the hotels. And that's 2022 pre-Sunrunner, and that's 2023 post-Sunrunner. It's spread out pretty much in the same direction. So we didn't see a whole lot of increases. Of course, we had a nice, polite discussion with him yesterday where he challenged some of the things that we pulled out. But we said, forgery, really, some of these other items, let's leave certain things in there. The other thing, as the alarm has been rung that the Sunrunner is causing increased crime in the St. Pete Beach area, what we believe is at the heart of the issue is that folks that are unhoused, that have a housing disadvantage, that is just a worldwide crisis that, of course, the bus company is now being charged with having to figure out, and including how to decrease crime in St. Pete Beach. There's been no direct correlation or no direct line that has been drawn to folks who just, unfortunately, don't have a place to lay their head at night. There's no substantiation that they're going in and driving up all of these crimes. Now, some of these events, and we met last week with quite a few different groups, we can concur. We have seen that it's triple the amount of police activity in beach access where we're bringing folks. That is true. And we are bringing more folks that are housing disadvantaged because we run a free service. They are getting on our vehicles, enjoying the air condition in a record-setting heat wave, charging their phones, as they're allowed to do because we're offering this service, and they're getting off at Beach Access Park. And we have seen that maybe some of them are enjoying the coolness of the beach, sleeping, and then coming back the next morning. I had a meeting at Sheriff Gualtieri's office last week. He presented some data that showed increased activity. Same thing, perception kind of become a reality. He believes it's a little bit of both. Met with Chief Holloway last week to tell him what our efforts are, which we'll talk to you about in a little bit. But we have tried to do something. Even though we're not ready to say, no, you're right, it's us, it's our route, we're doing it, because we're just not for a lot of different reasons. We have tried to be a presence out there to say, all right, let's go out there, let's have PSA staff show up and at least try to get to the heart of what's going on. The pictures that you see are pictures of Beach Access Park. They were taken by me last week. So Pinellas County Sheriffs, they have put a presence of deputies out there. There's 3 vehicles you see in the bottom, 1 unmarked car. There have been trespasses, I think 40 in almost the first 5 days since July 25th that they started doing that. There have been a handful of arrests, and all in this area. So we realize the bottleneck is Beach Access and Dolphin Village, where if I'm a St. Pete Beach resident, I am noticing more folks that are housing disadvantaged walking around, and now this perception of, oh, and by the way, it's just horrible for our entire neighborhood, and crime is going up, and it has to be them, and it has to be the Sunrunner. That has just kind of spiraled into this whole thing. And it's hard to kind of fight against that after that bell has been rung, but at least we're trying to get data and say, we know what we believe is true, and you don't have the facts to support the rest. So Pinellas County Sheriff's Office have been out there. As Chief Miller has said, he's been in contact with the sheriff, who along with St. Pete Beach wants us to institute a fair as the solution to all of this. Met with St. Pete Police Department, who has applauded our efforts and said, okay, we don't believe the fair will probably really do anything, but let us know how we can help you. And we've just tried to try a lot of different approaches, including we've had our own PSA employees called the Patrol, led by the union, ride on all of our Sunrunner vehicles. The white vehicle that you see in the top corner that's kind of parallel or perpendicular to the 3, that's our own hired contracted services called Allied Universal Security. And we have now hired and extended their contract to completely monitor the entire Sunrunner route all day long, from start to the end at midnight. And they're getting on every Sunrunner that pulls up to Beach Access at the front door, saying hello to the driver. They walk through the bus and they go out the rear door. Again, we're not out there telling other human beings that you can't be on our vehicle and enjoy life and enjoy our free service. But we are taking action like First Avenue North and 32nd between midnight and 6 a.m. It has popped up and has become a place of choice to sleep and just be there. So in the morning, we gently try to, have the stop so that other folks can use it, and we try to clear a path as much as we can. These are actual pictures of us in action. Our Director of Safety Security speaking with Allied Universal on the plan that we instituted with our police force. Again, we had stops at the Sheriff's Office and the St. Pete Police. Our 2 young folks there are going through the St. Pete Beach citizens' data, trying to, make heads and tails of it and see what we get from it. And we've engaged with that group that was at the last board meeting. At least have engaged with the gentleman who presented the data, as we had him in our offices yesterday. And of course, if you all remember, Executive Director April Lott from Directions for Living, who has her staff at Grand Central now, doing everything they can to offer resources, medical care, housing assistance to folks if they accept it. So, I think we've seen an effect. We have seen, the number of trespasses have gone way down. Right now, I believe the Sheriff's Office has, they've pulled back their main units. And so there's a unit called the Community Unit Path. They really don't do a whole lot of arrests. They do more of assisting and redirecting. So that's Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. St. Pete Police has a unit called Path that they're sitting at the Grand Central to kind of help folks. Again, our own employees are riding with the drivers of the Sunrunners to kind of help direct folks who may be sleeping on the bus round trip. We're waking them up gently and say, hey, where are you trying to go? Just being a little bit more visible, aware, and attentive to folks. And that's really all we can do. We've just tried to have a presence, try to be mindful that we are just human beings dealing with other human beings, and not pointing a finger unless we have absolutely unrefutable proof that we can point a finger and say, yes, you and you and you don't have a place to live, and you're also creating havoc in our town. We haven't seen that. So we're just dealing with the truths and the facts that we have at hand is the best way I'll say that, and deploying the resources that we have at our disposal to at least pay attention to the issue that was brought up by our citizens and be respectful of everybody at the same time, if, as possible as that is. Brad, I hope I've captured what you wanted me to capture. I'll leave it there. I tend to ramble, so I apologize if I did. But I think the one thing I'll tell you is we're going to continue to do this with our extended contracted security service for at least 8 more weeks. We'll continue to have other employees ride with the drivers of the Sunrunner vehicles, and we'll just collect data, and we'll observe and report, and we'll let you know what we see. But right now, what we see, sir, is folks just living their lives, whether it's free or whether we're charging. I think the ride's going to be the same for everyone, and the numbers are what they're going to be, for now.
So, again, it's not a recommendation, the plan is to keep, as James has outlined, going for, I guess, 6 more weeks, because we've already had 2 weeks since the board meeting. But, so far, it looks like things have really gotten a lot better, at least what the sheriff deputies there in Sandy Beach are telling us, and our own employees are telling us. The number of homeless folks that are going to sleep on the beach has gone way down. And it has not been, I've been quite pleased at how it has worked so far. Just telling them, you cannot go and sleep on the beach tonight, works for the vast majority of individuals. They don't want to get in trouble or anything like that, and they find somewhere else to go. Now, James and I are going to meet with April Lott tomorrow and try to get her and her nonprofit to help with this and communicate the word that you cannot go sleep on the beach. You have to find an alternative way, but it seems like it is so far working pretty well.
Yeah, I think the visibility at Beach Access, right, in Dolphin Village in that area, where I believe most residents would have noticed an impact that has made them feel uncomfortable, has gone way down. We know these folks between Grand Central and that corridor are going to have to go somewhere, and maybe it's now going to be dispersed between Boca Ciega, 75th, in that area. But I think we're willing to partner with any Health and Human Services agency to find other solutions as well. But it's been peaceful. It's been a peaceful exchange. It hasn't been an aggressive, hey, you get out of here, at least not on our parts. But yeah, to Chief Miller's point, yeah, the word has kind of gotten out to the folks who were going and just staying in St. Pete Beach all day that there's a presence, a sheriff's office presence at Beach Access. And if you don't have a plan or a destination, or your plan is just to be there aimlessly, then you may be addressed by an officer in a field interview, and you know what that leads to. So, best way I can kind of say that.
Thank you, and before we go to discussion, I want to add to this and give you guys some information, but congratulations on
Thank you.
being named, was the Men of Honor Award? I
Yes.
believe, from Onyx Magazine?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes, Onyx Magazine, I think every year does kind of awards 20 to 25 individuals, this Men of Honor distinction, and also Women of Honor. They do at a different date of, I think it's just kind of professional excellence, or, in this case, was Black men professional excellence throughout Florida.
Yeah, well, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And this work that you're doing on this issue and the way that you're looking at all sides of it, really exemplifies like why you received that award.
I
This is
appreciate
really,
the sentiments, thank you so much.
and I appreciate all that you're doing. I spoke with Chief Holloway from St. Pete Police Department after our last meeting because this, I thought there's gotta be a way that we can help on the originating end of this in St. Pete, like, of the perceived problem. And he was so open about it, and he said, I've got a meeting scheduled with PSTA, and so that was already set up. I talked with him before, asked if he could just consider having some more participation, like having, officers hop on the Sunrunner once in a while, just have a presence, just chat with people as part of his Park Walk and Talk program. We have our Community and Life Liaison program that responds to nonviolent calls with social services and other assistance rather than an arrest, and they are true experts at dealing with this kind of thing. He was all open to ways that the police department could help. And so, and then I talked to him after he met with the staff here, and he talked about how nice it was to have that conversation and be working with them. So I think we've got a real solution in progress here. And I think we have a good story to tell on how we listened and empathized with all parties and worked together across different agencies to find a solution. And I understand the sheriff's office is trying to do their part as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes, before this, I never had a reason to try to reach out to Chief Holloway or Sheriff Gualtieri. I just try to not bother people, and we try to handle everything we could, but reaching out to them, we got in-person meetings within a couple of days. So they were both very gracious with their time. We were trying to be respectful of it and said, hey, listen, whatever we can do to try to take this away from you, because Lord knows you both have a lot going on, enough to do, please let us know. So they were both very, very good with their time, and I've interacted with them both via text and email since then.
thank you.
So, Madam Chair, first of all, thank you for paying attention. What I appreciated was when the residents came forward, they didn't say they did not support Sunrunner. They did say we like Sunrunner, but, so I get it. And I also understand that when things are happening, and it is a change from what you are accustomed to, it magnifies the situation, because that's not what you're accustomed to. I think we could run into some serious issues if we were, and not that anyone said this, but if we were to deny someone an opportunity to get on the bus because they appear unhoused. Because a person could get on the bus and look like this and be unhoused. So I think that's a stretch I'm not even willing to entertain. I do appreciate the additional security. I just know that we're looking at our budget right now, so I'm curious about the I applaud that. I think you're doing the right thing. I'm just thinking about the cost,
Yes.
even for those 8 weeks, because security firms are not inexpensive. And likewise with the sheriff's department, I'm sure he'd rather have those units out in circulation versus being there, but I appreciate the fact that he sees the importance enough to want to do that. My concern is, because I know we say free, and some people don't always agree with me, but no service is free. Somebody's paying for it. So right now, even though persons aren't paying to get on the Sunrunner, we're paying for it. So it's not really free, but they are being extended a courtesy ride. The same with the city, when you guys, if this moves forward with the 200,000, you're paying for that service for
I
someone.
call it sponsoring.
You're sponsoring their ride, yeah, so it's not really free, and even though I know that won't make a difference in the impact that these residents feel, the ride is not free.
Right.
Someone's paying for it. And so thank you to the city of St. Pete, because what that does is that continues that, transport of persons who come to downtown St. Pete, go out to the beach, come back and forth, so there's tourism all around. I believe they're going out there because it is unbelievably hot. And if you can go somewhere where there's a nice breeze and you can get in the water, that's what you're gonna do. Wintertime, I think we'll see a reduction. I'm not saying we should wait till wintertime, but wintertime, we're gonna see a reduction, I believe, because now they're gonna be looking for warm shelter, and it's not gonna be on the beaches. But, the city, either you all already did, or it will be coming, supported maintaining the program, the call program.
We've already
Maintaining,
voted on it.
yeah, okay, so thank you, 5
We're
years.
actually expanding it.
5, yeah, and so, I know we've talked with Directions, but, in Gulf Coast, Jewish Family Community Services is kind of like the top umbrella piece of it. Maybe they can, be communicated with, also to kind of help monitoring or having a presence with the circulation. I know they're at the, bus round on Central Avenue as well,
Yeah.
persons from that. The issue then becomes, it's just not enough spaces for people to go who are unhoused. We're running out of ideas and places that they can go, or where we can provide them with supportive housing or transitional housing. So, I applaud all of your efforts. Thank you so much for jumping on this right away. Thank you, Chair Driscoll, for having your conversation with Chief Holloway. He's always so accommodating, or looking for the solution, which he understands is not arresting people. He always looks for another solution, so I appreciate that. And I would hope that we would just continue to track this to see, hopefully, a continued decrease as we're putting these things, as you have put these things in place. I really appreciate you, but I do see a difference in the map, when you're talking about the number of, concerns or issues in 2022 versus 2023.
Yes.
It does seem like those numbers have gone down somewhat, but again, when you're the person that's being approached or having to face this, it's a magnified issue, and I get their concern, and I appreciate the fact that they did come forward to us.
Another thing we saw in those maps, not shown as, it was spread out beyond Summer Line, so all the way in Paso Grill and other areas where we're not. So all of their data included everything, and we just tried to see, okay, well, what are the areas that we might be impacted in our stations?
If I could just have the two comments I got from very good, respected leaders in our community, from Mayor Welch, who, when I said, the sheriff, we might have put a fare on the Sunrunner. His comment was, Brad, why? That he wanted to stick with his plan to include the funding in the St. Petersburg budget, the $200,000. And he said that it was his opinion that this was just, in his words, a few bad apples were causing a problem, and why mess it up for thousands of our residents? Such a great service. And then Sheriff Galtieri said to me, he said, Brad, our society has just decided on places that the homeless can sleep and places where they can't sleep. And one of those places, Brad, that they cannot sleep is St. Pete Beach. So if you can just figure out a way to not have them go to the beach at night, we're good. So that, I think we're trying to figure out if we can do that or not.
And even if we were to instill a charge, or once the supported services in, some of them panhandle, they could get money to pay the
Well,
summer
that's
fare
right.
to ride out there still. So, all of us are bearing the concern of persons who are unhoused.
Mhm.
There's no community that is not touched by people being unhoused. Some people may not want it, but there's no community not touched. It doesn't mean as much to you until you are the person affected.
Right.
or your
right,
family member,
right.
then it means a lot more to you. But I think what you guys are trying to implement as solution-based decisions is good. Just keep working with the group, keep them informed, and I know they're gonna keep us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I think now that there is like a bigger team effort among PSTA, the Sheriff's Office, and the St. Pete Police Department, I expect that this will evolve into something that is sustainable long-term. It's true, having our security is good now, but may not be a long-term solution because of the expense. But I have a feeling that as this evolves, the need for that will shrink.
That's what we're hoping.
A lot of times with our police department, it's just about them being made aware of what's going on out there.
Exactly.
And then your answer is always, how can I help? And I just love that.
Yes.
Now, there was one hotel owner that spoke. Did they speak or was it an email? The Inn on the Beach, I think.
Oh.
I'm wondering if you spoke with them because they are one that came out and actually said
Oh, right.
Sunrunner is a good thing and they were pleased
Oh, yeah,
with it.
The gentleman that spoke at the board meeting,
Yeah.
that owned a business out there,
Yeah.
is also the chair of the St. Petersburg Chamber Transportation Company, and so I talked to him yesterday at the meeting about
Yeah.
all the efforts that James is doing, and that we have seen an improvement just in the last 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Good, I
He
think,
was
'cause
positive.
I just feel like the people who were supportive of Sunrunner should also be, recognized and kept up with the things that we're doing. Thanks to you,
I
you
think it's
guys, I think we've got
great
a success
idea, though.
story in the making here.
We may need to schedule an appointment at those hotels and go talk to them. I think some of them possibly have come in different, and we know how folks feel if you don't give their idea a chance. So I believe some folks will hold on to it, believing that charging a fare could be an impediment, and would just lessen visibility. But I think we just have to keep working at it. We're just trying to keep St. Pete Beach, St. Petersburg, folks that are housing disadvantaged, just trying to keep everybody happy and at peace. Tall order, but I think we have a recipe that may work. We just have to do it long term.
I think so too, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right.
Yeah,
Thank
and I
you so
apologize
much.
to delay you all. I
No,
know
it's
you've
all
gone over,
good.
so sorry
Really
about that.
appreciate the information, all the work you're doing on this.
Quick response.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That's Officer James, man of the year,
That's right, man of honor.
man of honor.
It was an honorable presentation, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the sentence.
Item 4B, the August board agenda. Brad, did you want to run through that real quick?
Madam Chair, I've got a meeting I cannot miss.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Right, so we got our Finance and Planning Committee next week. They will review all these items that are on the, that are at least tentatively set for the consent agenda. We've got, 2 agreements related to Sunrunner that Abshek will be presenting. They are, both related to the city of St. Petersburg, and I heard yesterday that that's going to the St. Petersburg City Council at, I think, your next meeting?
17th.
Yeah,
On the 17th.
yeah.
The savings for Sunrunner is broken up between the federal, it's $5 million total, but part of that is the St. Petersburg funding that that St. Petersburg contributed to Sunrunner. And so this agreement covers how they are going to contribute, what elements of the project, their savings that we're going to contribute to with the new station in downtown St. Petersburg. And one of those items is that they are going to pay for the artwork that is on the glass panels of the Sunrunner. The federal government will not pay for that, so the city's funding is going to pay for that. And so then that's covered in 4C, and then 4D is the contract that PSVA has with the artist, Catherine Woods, design and make the glass panels for not just that station, but the three stations that don't have art panels in downtown St. Petersburg. We had a robust discussion on the rules and regulations for the committee structure, and hopefully that will be beautifully presented for the board's approval. And then we had a good discussion at the legislative committee about the Vanpool program that we're taking over from T-BARDA. Heather's going to give a great presentation at the planning committee about the proposed service adjustments that are included in our recommended budget, and to try to identify alternatives, that if we are to eliminate a route, we don't want to leave the riders with no alternatives for transportation. And so we think we have some good solutions that she's going to outline in that. And Whitney Fox is going to give a presentation, not just on our promotional bus routes, but our whole advertising program. This was at the request of some board members. That's going to be presented to the finance committee next week.
Can I, Madam Chair, can I ask a question? And I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench in your presentation, regarding the budget, but it hit my head when I left. We are still in the process of gathering the surveys on the buses, correct?
For the community bus
Mm-hmm.
plan?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I know the recommendations that were brought forward to us about routes. And then you just said, looking at what routes could be merged or whatever. But I'm just thinking out loud about, we haven't even completed the survey, so we don't know what could come out of that may help trend our decisions about routes or service. Just putting that in someone's thinking cap.
It's an issue.
I mean, I know we have to I know we have a limited space on what we
Weird
do.
timing.
But I started thinking, what if the surveys come up with something totally, anyway, so I just.
We have prior surveys, and we have a lot of information about the routes, even understanding that we are just a little bit disconnected with the community bus plan's massive survey effort coming shortly thereafter. But the goal is to not necessarily, as Commissioner Gao likes to say, just cut the surveys, just cut the routes to meet the budget, but to provide more efficient service that carries more riders. And so if we are going to discontinue some services in some neighborhoods, we have alternatives for those folks, and then we can reinvest those savings in better service. That is the goal. I am told that the actual survey is actually completed, and hopefully we'll have some information from the survey that was just conducted as well. So,
Thank you.
not totally disconnected, which is good.
Thanks. Commissioner Gao, did you have anything? All right. Thank you. Do we have any other business for today?
We do
Our
not.
next meeting will be scheduled for September 6th, 2023 at 10 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Oh,
Thank you for staying.
and I brought bananas in.
That was gonna be my
Here's
question.
the thing, no, I just tried the Kroger delivery service, and, which is fantastic, by the way. I wish they gave like referral thingies, because I'm telling everybody. And they delivered it yesterday, and I had ordered one bunch of bananas, and I got 2, and my dog and I cannot possibly eat that many bananas before they go bad, and I thought, I'll take them to PSTA tomorrow. So there's a beautiful bunch of bananas. Take one, take them all, make bread.